Hey, what's up? This is Chosen. Hope you're having a great day. This is going to be a Raid Shadow Legends video talking about the shocking results. I did not expect this poll to go like this at all. We were having a discussion a few videos ago here on the channel talking about the absolute dominance of Marichka and Taras as they run through the arena at the highest levels. I showed a screenshot where like all of the top teams are using the exact same defense. There's really no other option. And they're also using the Blessing Polymorph. So we did a poll and talking about with the community. Shout out to the over 5,000 of you that voted, over 150 comments on this. So shout out to all of you for participating over on the community tab. And I did not expect the poll to come out at a 60-40 for nerfing champions. The community, in my experience over the years of playing Raid, is never in favor of nerfing champions. They usually want to see other champions brought into line and brought up to that level instead of nerfing current champions. So since this is surprising, I'm going to talk about it a little bit, and I'm going to go through some of the top comments that those of you left down, and we will talk about the different contexts in this discussion. Let's get into it. Alrighty, now obviously I can't go over every single comment, but let's read through a few of the top ones here. So we have got Ceres Art. Sorry if I mispronounced that. If they don't, then buff the other voids that have crippling drawbacks for fear. They'd be too powerful, like Umbral Enchantress, who's an epic, locking herself out for a whole 5 turns. Yeah, I agree with you. That is unfortunate. And plus her AI is a little bit weird in terms of Umbral, or at least it used to be. For like, it made her, until they had like the custom AI setting, it made Umbral very difficult to use. You had to like block buffs first and then do like, yeah, so Umbral is a little bit weird and crippling as a champion, but definitely has some potential to be powerful. And you have to consciously decide what role she fulfills rather than being able to use her entire kit for things like Hydra or Scar. Yep, Sky. Yep, great comment. Sky Touch is another one, kind of like Umbral, where they've got potential to be so strong and bring something so cool to the game, but how the way they're implemented and the way they function is kind of crippling. And if Marichka can full revive on death, on no cooldown, then I think my requests are reasonable. Yep, I think that's a good point. A lot of people do have problems with her full revive having no cooldown. And you know what? Maybe they could adjust this to be revive one random dead ally when this champion is killed, something like that. And then it would say, if Taras is on the same team, we'll always revive Taras. It could be something like that. I'm just kind of throwing an idea out off the top of my head, but I could definitely see an adjustment to Marichka's passive and how the cooldown kind of operate in there, because there is a cooldown on that active effect of placing the block damage on all allies for 1 turn whenever an ally receives a bomb or one of those debuffs and all of that. But I think I agree with the overall sentiment of their comment for sure. But then we've got Jesse P. I don't like nerfing champs, just buff other champs to make them viable. Yet, and that's usually the sentiment that I see in the community when we do polls like this, because it's a little bit disheartening when you invest resources, you invest books, and you really take the time to develop a champion, get their masteries, you had the hype of summoning them, and then they get nerfed and you're like, well, gee, I'm glad I did all that. It makes you kind of not want to play the game if you are emotionally and sometimes financially invested into a champion and then they get the nerf hammer. So that is usually the way that it goes, and why I'm so surprised by the results of this poll. So I wanted to see what some of you were saying. Like Nodgar was always a vault champ. Now he got a buff, and if you got gear, you could actually use him to help fight these two. Also, they are a point of national pride for the Plarium team, so they will never get nerfed while the country is at war. And yeah, I mean, it's no shocker there that the Ukrainian-themed champions built by a Ukrainian studio by like Plarium is going to want them to be pretty cool in game and be pretty strong. So none of that is surprising, but I do think that for the overall health of the game, they would probably consider at least having more avenues to counter that defense, so maybe we don't see the top 50 teams in Platinum doing the exact same thing. Then D'Artagnan says, I would like to Taras to be coded like the rest of the HP-based champions. For example, destroyed max HP reduces his damage just like everyone else. Okay, cool, fair input. I have neither, but I hate seeing champs get nerfed. If there was a system to get books and chickens and ascension pots back, then I'd say nerf. That is true. I've been saying that for a long time. I think, you know, when they adjust something in game, they nerf a champion, I think they should give the resources back. You should have like a 72-hour window to claim resources that you've invested in a champion after they've been adjusted, because that would make the game a lot more fluid. Now, it wouldn't be perfect, and it's never going to be perfect because you still had to spend like the shards and you still have like the excitement of pulling them. But at least if they could refund like some books and some silver and some stuff for some chicken or whatever, or give you that option, like you can choose to pass or you can choose to reset a champion that you invested in. It wouldn't be the end all be all god tier solution, but it would help them be a little bit more fluid when it comes to changing things and not feeling as bad about it. We got YOLO Life coming in here with just make more destroy max HP champions, which counters Taras, make more block passive skills champs. Yeah. Right now we only have so the problem with Ramantu is Ramantu gets demolished by Polymorph. Ramantu would have a much better role in the game if it wasn't for that Polymorph blessing, if it just gets adjusted a little bit. That thing really changes how the whole system kind of functions. Then Quinati says, I sang the same treatment about Siphi and Rotos. Yeah, if you're newer to Raid, Siphi and Rotos were like that first tandem that was just god tier in PvP. And so a simple cooldown on her passive would be a good start. Yep, so that's going to be, looks like a common sentiment here. I'd love Classic Arena to have the same 30-minute rule as live, just for those defensive teams that you just troll for eternity. And that's an interesting concept. So you know how like in live arena, there's a 30-minute limit on how long the battle can go. What if we went ahead and did that same thing in Classic Arena? Why not? You know, I think raids evolved to a point where we could start to think about something like that. So that's an interesting point. And then we'll go over a couple more here. We've got TX240, which is saying normalize would be the more accurate term. Saf pointed out how Taras isn't coded normally. And yeah, you know, I saw that video as well. So there looks to be some mistakes going on and some shenanigans going on with Taras where he would need to be fixed a little bit. But there's also a reply here that says, even if he was coded correctly, he would still be OP. One of the best nukers in the game should not have one of the best defensive passives in the game. Marichka passive does not even have a cooldown on the revive. Yeah, you see that coming up all the time. Aim usually against nerfs, but they broke the arena with this pair and way more than Siphi and Rotos ever were. And yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it's close. Like Siphi and Rotos were really, really strong. I think Taras is a little bit more sticky on the battlefield than Rotos because of obviously the HP scaling, and Rotos scales a little bit more with attack, but Rotos can do the vitality plunder and stuff like that. So it is close, but I would say we've never really seen anything as crazy as Marichka and Taras. And then, yeah, we got the good old nerf polymorph. Yeah, I think that's going to be something that really, if I did a poll similar to this one, if I did a poll of would you like to see polymorph nerfed or adjusted, it would be like 97-3 probably. So it wouldn't even be 60-40 like this one. So it's really surprising that Plarium's just kind of trying to sweep that under the rug and not do anything about polymorph, because in my opinion, it should have been adjusted a long time ago. And then also, while we're here, I'm sure we'll be talking about this in tomorrow's wrap-up video, but very underwhelming opinions so far about the Fragment Champion launching next Thursday, where we have got only an 11% positivity rate on the Fragment Champion as of right now. That new Skinwalker, that is the last video before this one that we talked about today, where Plarium announced that Skinwalker support coming to the game, the one that lowers resistance and all of that, with 33% of people saying complete trash. So that'll be an interesting topic for tomorrow, and I did not expect it to be that negative. I would have guessed that it would be like 3 or 4% looks amazing, and like 15 to 17% pretty solid, and then pretty well, you know, the same on meh, but a little bit less on the complete trash. So definitely a little bit interesting here, and I appreciate all of you for taking the time to vote over there on the polls. But I also did see a comment floating around the community. Sorry, I would give you credit if I could here, that I want to make sure I mentioned before I ended the video, and that is they have done events for Marichka and Taras, like 10x events and stuff like that. So now they've kind of painted themselves into a corner where it would be a massive feels bad if Plarium came out and did those 10x events and then they nerfed Marichka and Taras or something. Then it would be, so it's going to be like backlash no matter what you do, which is why they're in a tough spot, because they probably need to be adjusted in some way, because even the community that's very against nerfs ever happening looks to be trending in that direction. But because of the events, and I believe like Ash made that point as well, they are really in a tough spot because of the events they did and kind of like the investment that it takes to get some of these champions. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see over the course of the rest of the year how Plarium goes about kind of evolving the meta to make sure it doesn't stay this stale for this long. So I appreciate all of you. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe on your way out if you enjoy daily Raid Shadow Legends content, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.